Well, good morning, everyone. Today is a good day for a good day. Hello, I'm Russ Shuchuk, International Vice President of IBEW Canada, representing over 70,000 of the best electrical workers in the world, right here in Canada. IBEW members build every single part of Canada's electrical infrastructure, from critical energy projects in BC to transmission lines in Nova Scotia and everything in between. AI data centers, high-rise construction, battery plants, oil and gas, nuclear, transmission, power generation, wind, and solar. All done by properly trained, certified electrical workers here in this great country. One thing is clear. Prime Minister Carney's government is building, and they're building alongside the IBEW. The Major Projects Office has been a crucial step for expediting Canada's projects that will be built and maintained by our brothers and sisters for decades to come, providing meaningful high-paying union careers across this country for the next generation. And today, we're here with Prime Minister Carney just weeks after the Spring Economic Update's $6 billion commitment to expand apprenticeship supports and build up the capacity of our union-led training centres. This government has ambitious plans for the electrical future of this country. As the #1 stakeholder in Canada in the electrical work, the IBEW is ready to build, and we can't wait to get to work. This announcement in electricity, as far as I'm concerned, is the greatest announcement since, well, electricity itself. Today's announcement is another exciting advancement in getting this work done. We are so proud, so very proud to be partnering with this government, building the future of Canada's energy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Russ, and it's really great to have you start this to talk about how today's announcement is good for workers right across our country. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tout le monde. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm actually sharing your excitement and pride, and the future is electric. Today's announcement of a national electricity strategy is about ensuring Canada has the affordable, reliable, clean electricity we need, not just for today, but for the decades ahead. We know that the path to net zero, to fighting climate change, and to building a strong and resilient economy runs through electrification. And today, we're laying that path. L'annonce faite aujourd'hui de la stratégie nationale d'électricité vise à garantir que le Canada dispose de l'électricité abordable, fiable et propre dont nous avons besoin, non seulement aujourd'hui, mais pour les décennies à venir. Nous savons que la voie vers la carboneutralité, la lutte contre le changement climatique et la construction d'une économie forte et résiliente passe par l'électrification. Et aujourd'hui, nous traçons cette voie. Yesterday marked the 1-year anniversary since I was appointed as a Minister of Environment and Climate Change for Canada. And it's a chance to look back at all that we've accomplished so far. We've put in place a nature strategy that sets protections and sets forward how we're going to move on 30 by 30 for Canada. We have finalized enhanced methane regulations on oil and gas and landfill that will make tangible and significant reductions in our emissions. We've renewed our commitment to international climate finance. We've put in place an auto strategy that has already shown an uptick in the sales of electric vehicles. We have arranged and managed cooperation agreements all across our country. And that brings us to today. Because today, the work to electrify Canada, we have done a lot already, but these are the next steps. If we look at what the steps have been so far, from Iqaluit and Tolston hydro projects in the north to major wind developments in Nova Scotia to new nuclear generation in Ontario, Canada's building big and building clean. We have moved forward with historic clean electricity and clean technology investment tax credits. We've doubled our investment in clean energy investment through the Canada Infrastructure Bank. And we know that we need to go further and faster. And on that, I'm passing it to the Prime Minister with the exciting news for today. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Julie. Bonjour tout le monde. Thank you, Julie, for Minister Jabruzen, for that introduction, for your leadership over the course of the last year and going forward. Russ, I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning with your enthusiasm for today's announcement, today's task, or today and tomorrow's task, and for your workers to deliver, make sure that Canada can deliver on it. And we need to deliver because Canada is facing major challenges from a rapidly changing world. Les États-Unis modifient radicalement l'ensemble de leurs relations commerciales, transformant ainsi bon nombre de nos anciens atouts en vulnérabilité. La guerre fait rage au Moyen-Orient et en Ukraine, ce qui fait grimper en flèche les prix de l'énergie partout dans le monde et chez nous. L'essor rapide de l'IA commence à transformer notre façon de vivre et de travailler et génère une demande en énergie sans précédent. Les changements climatiques s'intensifient, les tempêtes sont plus violentes, les inondations plus importantes et les feux de forêt plus dévastateurs. Il est donc essentiel que le Canada développe sa résilience et apporte sa contribution. Canadians are feeling all the impacts of these big changes at their kitchen tables, at the pumps, on the factory floors, as costs rise and uncertainty casts its heavy shadow. The good news is that many countries, unlike many countries, we can control our future if we seize this moment. And that means applying several lessons that these big forces have revealed. First, when the world fundamentally changes, we must respond with new approaches. As the Canadian Marshall McLuhan described 60 years ago, an age of anxiety is caused by trying to do today's job with yesterday's tools and yesterday's concepts. Canadians get that. Canadians get that, which is why they're changing how they shop, where they travel, and how they come together. And governments must now follow their lead. The second lesson is that in a much tougher world, we have to take care of ourselves. And the right path, as this government has stressed, the right path forward is to build big and to build for all, with code, copper, and steel. And to that end, Canada's new government has been moving fast. We've already referred 21 nation-building initiatives to the Major Projects Office. Projects that will connect, diversify, and propel our economy through over $125 billion in new investment. L'année dernière, la construction de la nouvelle centrale nucléaire de Darlington a commencé en Ontario. En mars, nous avons donné le coup d'envoi d'un projet d'expansion du terminal de Contrecoeur au port de Montréal, 40 ans après sa conception initiale. Ce projet a été lancé quelques mois après notre arrivée au pouvoir. Cet été, nous lancerons le projet de route de la vallée de Mackenzie dans les territoires du Nord-Ouest, un projet dont j'attends parler depuis mon enfance. Et on ne fait que commencer. We've created a new agency, Build Canada Homes, to drive affordable home building at a pace not seen in generations. Over $50 billion to our Build Community Strong Fund, for hospitals to hockey rinks, and a new defense industrial strategy that will catalyze $500 billion in investment in Canada over the next decade. Now, the third lesson that we must take from the current rupture is our sovereignty, our sustainability, our prosperity will depend on our ability to supply and control our energy. We have to unlock Canada's full potential as an energy superpower. As the head of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, said just last week, Canada has, and I quote, a golden opportunity to build a more sustainable and reliable energy system. This will require bold investments, practical solutions focused on results, not rhetoric, and the full force of a united Canada working together. Working together to build a stronger, more resilient, more independent Canada that works for all. That's our mission. And as the Minister just said, central to that mission is more electricity. As our industries expand, our economy grows, AI accelerates, electricity demand in Canada is expected to double by 2050. So we will double our grid. That's the headline. Canada will double its electricity generation over the course of the next 2 decades. Because the path to affordability is electrification. The path to competitiveness is electrification. The path to net zero is electrification. Electrification underpins everything: our emissions, our environment, our economy. Et dans un monde en évolution rapide, le Canada prend son avenir en main. Grâce à notre nouvelle stratégie nationale d'électrification, nous bâtirons rapidement et à grande échelle pour doubler notre réseau énergétique et bâtir un Canada fort qui sera alimenté par une énergie propre, abordable et fiable. Over the coming decades, Canadians will use more electricity because many of the things we use every day, the cars we drive, the heaters in our home, the machines in our factories, are switching to electric power. Doubling our grid to meet that demand won't be easy. The scale is huge, the timeline is short, and the task of getting the right mix of power is complex. If we get it wrong, Canadians will pay higher utility bills. If we're too timid, Canadians will end up short of power, losing good jobs and growing reliant on foreign suppliers. We can't pursue business as usual. We can't simply rely on restrictions and prohibitions. We must do things differently. Now, with the right investments and electrification measures, 7 in 10 Canadian households will pay less for their total energy by 2050. That's $15 billion back in the pockets of Canadians. And that's because electric machines are 2 to 4 times more efficient than those they replace. So, as we electrify our transportation, our buildings, our industry, the electricity slice of the overall energy pie grows, but the size of the entire pie shrinks. Now, Canada starts from a position of strength. We have amongst the lowest electricity costs in the world. Our system is already 80% non-emitting. Doubling generation in the next few decades will require those massive investments. It will require the linking of provincial systems. It will require the spreading of costs over time using our AAA balance sheet so that ratepayers don't pay all of the costs of investments today for benefits that Canadians, all Canadians, will benefit from and our planet will benefit from over decades. Getting this right requires permitting reform, new partnerships with Indigenous peoples, and a willingness to use a wide range of energy, including hydro, nuclear, wind, solar, some gas, carbon capture, geothermal, and beyond. Il faut savoir que notre réseau électrique émet aujourd'hui un peu moins de 50 mégatonnes, tandis que les émissions des industries, des transports et des bâtiments dépassent largement les 500 mégatonnes. L'enjeu, de loin le plus important, consiste à réduire les émissions à un coût raisonnable grâce à l'électrification et non à la pureté absolue de la production, la génération. La politique d'électrification ambitieuse permettrait de réduire les émissions jusqu'à 5 fois par rapport au total actuel des émissions liées à l'électricité. To repeat, By far the biggest prize is reducing emissions affordably through electrification, not pursuing absolute purity in generation. Aggressive electrification can reduce total emissions by up to 5 times current total electricity emissions. Our partnership with Alberta demonstrates the value of working together to solve multiple challenges. Building on our November MOU, Canada and Alberta have recently signed a cooperation agreement to get major infrastructure projects built faster. And Alberta has committed to reduce methane emissions by 75% over the next decade. We'll announce tomorrow an implementation agreement which includes strengthening industrial carbon pricing to send clear investment signals and to reward decarbonization. This is essential to our clean electricity agenda. To create the conditions to build the clean grid of the future, we need a carbon pricing market that actually works. We will also advance potential pipeline to transport at least 1 million barrels of low-emission Alberta oil a day to new markets. As a prerequisite to this project, we're progressing Pathways, a project that would enable Alberta to export some of the lowest carbon intensity oil in the world while creating an entirely new industry of carbon capture. And we're both committed to exploring new sources of energy, including nuclear, and a more efficient system that connects with neighboring provinces. We need to take the same pragmatic approach of partnership across the country to build new hydro, new nuclear, renewable power, all at scale, together. That's hydro in Quebec, Newfoundland, Manitoba, BC, and the North. Nuclear in New Brunswick, Ontario, Saskatchewan, renewables in the Maritimes and all across Canada. To those ends, Canada's government is launching today consultations on our new electricity strategy. And over the next few months, we'll work with provinces, territories, Indigenous peoples, utilities, unions, to identify the actions needed to double our grid most effectively and affordably. The strategy rests on 4 pillars: build, connect, train, and make. And first, as you've heard us say before, it is time to build. We need to build more transmission lines, more transformers, more wires, more power. Alors, nous accélérons déjà la mise en œuvre de plusieurs projets d'énergie propre qui permettront d'ajouter des milliers de mégawatts à notre réseau électrique. Les éléments nécessaires à l'électrification sont en place. Des crédits d'impôt à l'investissement remboursables, le taux d'imposition sur les investissements les plus avantageux de G7, des prêts de la Banque de l'infrastructure du Canada et du financement par le Fonds de croissance du Canada. And we're proposing to augment all of these, including by adding a new investment tax credit for interties between provinces and within provincial networks. Which brings me to the second pillar, to connect our power in Canada east, west, north. Today, Canada is powered by many separate electricity grids, most of which aren't connected to each other. In many cases, it's easier to trade electricity with the United States than across our own country. And that fragmentation costs us billions of dollars. It means more power outages, expensive, duplicative infrastructure, and higher prices for Canadian families. It also means that many northern and remote communities aren't connected to the broader Canadian grids at all, resulting in energy bills that are 6 to 10 times higher than the national average. Fragmentation means wasted power, about 10 terawatt hours every year. That's enough to power 1 million Canadian homes for that year. Connecting grids in Europe is already saving nearly $80 billion a year, and the opportunity in Canada is just as significant. And that's why back in November in Terrace, BC, our government referred the Northwest Critical Conservation Corridor to the Major Projects Office. This is a project that will generate $10 billion in economic activity, that will connect northern communities and build a new clean energy corridor for generations. It will link Yukon's isolated grid to British Columbia's. and the broader North American grid through the Yukon-BC Grid Connect, while creating that potential connection with Alberta. L'intégration interprovinciale est une mission complexe. Chaque province et chaque territoire a une structure de marché et un mécanisme de planification qui lui sont propres. Pour certaines provinces comme le Québec, cette structure est une grande source de fierté et un moteur de prospérité économique. Alors nos consultations vont explorer les mesures que nous pouvons prendre pour bâtir cette réussite dans le but de relier davantage nos réseaux d'électricité et d'accélérer la mise en place des interconnexions essentielles, tout en respectant les champs de compétences des provinces et territoires. The consultations will tackle common barriers to those interprovincial interties. They'll explore an increased role for the Canadian Energy Regulator, develop standard cost allocation mechanisms to distribute fairly costs across those provinces and territories. We'll increase data sharing, regional modeling to speed up the intertie projects, and will refer the development of a new comprehensive transmission interconnect investment strategy to the Major Projects Office. The third element of the strategy is to train, attract, and retain new talent. It's good to see you here, Sean Strickland here as well, is central to it. The unions are central to this. Because doubling our electricity grid will create nearly 30,000 new, as Russ said, high-paying, not just jobs, high-paying careers for Canadians by the end of 2028. 100,000 more by 2050. Right now, over 80% of employers in the sector are facing labor shortages. So that's one of the big reasons why in last month's Spring Economic Update, we launched Team Canada Strong, a $6 billion nationwide effort to recruit, train, and hire up to 100,000 new Red Seal trade workers over the next 5 years. And in the upcoming consultations for the electricity strategy, we'll build on this momentum to ensure our workforce measures are effectively targeted to the need of the sector. And the final pillar of our strategy is to make our future. Our new strategy will ensure that more of the technologies and components that are going to power that new grid, smart meters, transformers, wind towers, AI systems, that those are designed and made right here at home. Many of those components are already in short supply globally. And right now, our electricity sector is highly import dependent. So our consultations will explore how to grow domestic manufacturing capacity so those components are made in Canada wherever possible. So that's wind towers in Quebec, transformers and steel in Ontario, uranium in Saskatchewan. Opportunities are literally pan-Canadian and virtually endless. We come back to affordability because, to be clear, there's no credible path to net zero without a relentless focus on affordability. And that's why we intend to adjust the clean electricity regulations, keeping energy reliable and affordable in the short term as we shift to cleaner energy at scale over time. That's why we will expand support for energy-saving retrofits for up to 1 million Canadian households through financing, grants, and other complementary measures. And that includes making it easier for Canadians to transition from expensive propane, heating oil, and electric baseboard heating to more affordable electric heat pumps. In a rapidly changing world, Canada must become the source of our own affordable, clean, reliable power, because when we master energy, we master our destiny. This is no small feat, no small step for humankind. We can't use yesterday's tools or concepts. And that's why today's strategy marks an important shift from prohibitions to partnership, from bargaining to building. Yesterday, I had the honor of meeting the astronauts of Artemis II, including Canada's own Colonel Jeremy Hansen. And their mission, their characters, remind us what we can achieve through teamwork, ingenuity, and boldness. And that's the spirit that we're all coming together to launch our mission to build Canada strong, to power Canada strong for all and for all generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Conference. First question goes to Radio Canada.
Bonjour, votre prédécesseur, Justin Trudeau, avait promis de décarboner le réseau électrique d'ici 2050. À quel point est-ce que le gaz naturel va faire partie du plan pour atteindre votre objectif de doubler la production d'électricité d'ici 2050?
Merci pour votre question. Premièrement, je veux saluer le progrès qui a été fait pendant le gouvernement de M. Trudeau. Il a changé le trajet des émissions au Canada, a commencé les réductions d'émissions ici au Canada. Maintenant, ce qui est nécessaire est de renforcer le progrès avec des grands investissements, avec une concentration sans relâche sur l'abordabilité immédiate. Parce que pendant les dernières années, il y a une crise de pouvoir d'achat au Québec, à travers le Canada, une crise d'abordabilité. Et ce qui est nécessaire est de mettre l'accent sur l'abordabilité à court terme, et ce sera un rôle pour un morceau de gaz naturel, de génération de gaz naturel, dans certaines provinces, certains marchés d'électricité. Alors, il y aura un rôle. Ça, c'est clair pour nous et c'est clair dans notre stratégie. Mais en même temps, c'est un complément d'un beaucoup plus large investissement dans l'énergie propre, hydro, nucléaire, et les renouvelables et tout cela.
Par rapport au protocole d'entente avec l'Alberta, on voit que vous êtes prêt à faire beaucoup de concessions pour Daniel Smith. Est-ce que vous iriez aussi loin s'il n'y avait pas de menace référendaire en Alberta? Est-ce que vous pensez que ça prend un pipeline pour garantir l'unité nationale?
Dans un mot, non. Non et non. Premièrement, le protocole d'attente, il y aura, comme je viens de dire, il y aura une annonce plus détaillée demain avec le Premier ministre Smith et moi à Calgary. Mais ce qui est essentiel est d'avoir un marché en Alberta et on espère, à travers le Canada, après un certain temps, un marché de carbone qui fonctionne, un vrai marché de carbone. Parce que maintenant, le marché de carbone en Alberta s'est brisé. Il y a un grand écart, par exemple, entre le prix actuel et les prix ciblés par le fédéral. Ça, c'est un des points fondamentaux. Et en ce qui concerne l'autre aspect de l'accord, ce sera une occasion d'accélérer la transition énergétique à travers le Canada et pour le Canada d'être un fournisseur fiable pour nos partenaires internationaux dans une manière qui rend le Canada plus prospère et plus indépendant. Merci.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, David Thurton with CBC News. Prime Minister, you mentioned that tomorrow you're going to be announcing how your government and the Alberta government is advancing a pipeline. Can you tell us, is there a proponent yet? Have you settled on a route or some possible routes? And also, are you planning to designate this pipeline a project in national interest and then fast track it like C5 would do?
A couple of things. Thank you for your question. I mean, I'd like more of the announcements to come out tomorrow next to Premier Smith. I'll say the following, though, is that the MOU and the intention of the MOU has been that Alberta would advance, that there will be a private sector proponent for the pipeline, that the federal government has, I shouldn't say the federal government, it's an agreement, so we all agree on this, that there are multiple preconditions for that pipeline moving forward. It includes strengthening the carbon market. It includes the methane regulations that the minister helped put in place and have been put in place now. It includes very much the Pathways project moving forward, no pathways, no pipelines, so all those elements moving forward. But we're making progress, and it's a private sector proponent. Obviously, you can't designate something which has not yet been fully proposed. So that's why I chose carefully the word advancing as opposed to concluding.
Okay, and real quick, because I know my colleagues have questions. Why are we amending the clean electricity regulations? And is this because of the MOU?
Well, first off, we're what we signal in, and to be clear, we're putting out, it's a fairly detailed, as I hope you had a chance to see, electricity strategy with a number of initiatives. We're putting it out as a consultation for the next 4 months. So we're going to be sitting down, obviously, with provinces. We have the primary jurisdictions, Indigenous peoples, unions, utilities, other stakeholders, getting feedback, and then we'll look to finalize the initiatives. So with respect to the clean electricity regs, it goes back to, if I may, the first question from your colleagues at Radio Can, or an element of the first question, which is that a role for natural gas, is there a role for natural gas in the transition in some provinces? That was part of my answer, remembering that different provinces, different electricity markets start from different positions. So we're taking a very practical approach here, recognizing that under some interpretations of the current electricity regulations, it'd be difficult to build some additional natural gas that would complement much bigger builds. And to be clear, the orders of magnitude, the clean electricity build from hydro through to renewables is going to be much bigger than what we're talking about specifically. But to have those complements in some markets, particularly as it takes some time to bring those markets together, that helps deliver affordability. We have some of the cheapest gas in the world in Canada. It can be efficient, delivers affordability, but the electricity regs need to be consistent with that. Can't have them set up necessarily that's going to strand a series of assets, but then how do you offset those assets down the road with carbon credits? And we've laid out the broad strokes of that, and that's what we'll have more detailed discussions on.
Next question.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Premier ministre, Antoine Trépanier de la presse. Je comprends que vous lancez des consultations avec les provinces, mais particulièrement pour le Québec, avec le plan d'Hydro-Québec pour les 10 prochaines années.
Absolument.
Quelles sont vos attentes par rapport au Québec? Quelles sont vos attentes par rapport à Hydro-Québec? Et qu'est-ce que vous avez à offrir au Québec dans cette stratégie?
Oui, merci. Ouais, premièrement, je voudrais saluer les initiatives d'Hydro-Québec, et ce n'est pas seulement parce que le greffier actuel du Conseil a été le PDG, mais l'ambition de Hydro-Québec est formidable. Formidable pour le Québec, formidable pour le Canada, et va avancer les objectifs pour le Québec et pour le Canada. Premier point. Deuxième point. Dans la stratégie d'Hydro-Québec, il y a, comme vous le savez, un investissement à peu près 145 milliards de dollars pendant la prochaine décennie. Le Canada va fournir un crédit d'impôt d'investissement remboursable. C'est un grand montant d'argent, c'est une grande incitative. Ça change les économies, les rendements pour Hydro-Québec, et c'est une grande incitative pour accélérer ce investissement. Premier point. Deuxième point. Il y a des projets, par exemple Churchill Falls, qui impliquent d'autres provinces, dans ce cas la Terre-Neuve et Labrador. Alors, il y a la possibilité que le gouvernement du Canada peut trouver ou faire un complément des solutions entre les provinces. Et on a des discussions sur cela. Et puis, nos incentives pour les ménages et tout cela, ça implique tous les ménages québécois.
Par rapport à la visite de M. Trump en Chine, vous avez fait l'objet de beaucoup de critiques aux États-Unis quand vous avez conclu une entente sur les véhicules électriques. Là, on a entendu un beau vocabulaire on était presque amis là, entre les États-Unis et la Chine. Comment vous réagissez au changement de ton entre les deux pays et qu'est-ce que ça veut dire pour les Canadiens? Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire pour votre gouvernement?
Cette situation, je souhaite qu'il y ait des accords bénéficiels pour les Chinois, pour les Américains, pour le monde. Entre ils sont les deux hégémons du monde, les deux grandes puissances. Alors il faut, on espère qu'il y a des accords entre eux. Mais les critiques, les actions, les différences entre les critiques et les actions des États-Unis en ce qui concerne le Canada et la Chine, ça souligne que c'est nécessaire d'être mis chez nous, de prendre des initiatives dans l'intérêt du Canada. Il faut être indépendant et cette stratégie, aujourd'hui, va rendre le Canada plus indépendant, plus prospère et plus soutenable. Oui, merci.
Thank you. Next question.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
Najud Amlis, Bloomberg News. Does your government still plan to meet its 2030 emissions reduction target?
We are putting in place a series of initiatives that will make material emission reductions. We'll update our climate plans and our emission reduction targets in due course. But let's be clear about what we're talking about here. Is we're looking at an ability to remove about 250 to 300 megatons of emissions through electrification with clean electricity in a very practical way, in a way that will help unleash the $1 trillion or so over the next 25 years of investment that's needed, in partnership with provinces, in partnerships with the private sector, and with a credible plan that's focused on investment and action. And it's that investment that's going to reduce the emissions.
On today's announcement, the strategy says the government plans to allow greater use of offsets to give the sector more flexibility. I'm wondering if you could elaborate on how this will work, and does this is the ultimate aim here to just allow for more gas power plants?
The ultimate aim here is to make the ultimate aim is to affordably transition to a low emission, ultimately net zero economy that's more competitive, more independent, more reliable power system. That's the goal, to do so in an independent way. I refer to my earlier comments about the complementary role of gas in the short term, a role that is dwarfed in scale in terms of the clean electricity investments that the country will be making across hydro, nuclear, renewables. The use of offsets, there's two things I would say. One is ultimately, as I'm sure you know, in net zero is called net zero for a reason. There is a net in net zero. The net is the use of offsets, and so clarification about the role of those offsets, the types of those offsets, when they can be used, is part of any comprehensive electricity strategy. And that brings me to one more point, which is, question comes from Bloomberg and markets, and just reinforcing the need to have a true market, a true carbon credit market in this case, not an offset market, but a credit market in Alberta. And over time, we would like to see that developed, and other provinces have the option of joining if they so wish.
Merci. Prochaine question.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Morning.
David Baxter with the Canadian Press. Does this new strategy still intend to require LNG builds to have a carbon capture proponent, even with the eye on amending the clean electricity regulations?
We have, it's a very important question. One of the things which you may have seen, but I'll draw your attention to it in the spring economic statement, is the accelerated the capital cost allowance for LNG projects. We've tied that to the emissions efficiency of those, if I can put it that way. So in other words, being top quartile, low emission LNG through the LNG trains, that is what triggers the economics on the accelerated capital cost allowance. I think we're proud, and you see our track record here as a government, that the projects that are we've supported in some way or looking at through the Major Projects Office are top quartile or top decile low-emission LNG, and we expect that to continue. And remember, our last point, under the major projects legislation, we need these projects to align with our climate goals, and so that helps reinforce. Thank you.
Yeah, and just on a different topic,
Sure.
last year during the election campaign, you talked a lot about build, 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 but right now it looks like the government's looking more at edging towards an idea of selling off lots of different public assets. We're talking about airports. There's a discussion paper on the idea of looking at selling off ports. Where does that fit into the mandate that Canadians gave you, and are you looking at privatizing other areas of major transportation infrastructure?
We are relentlessly focused on build, build, build. We get up in the morning, first thing we think about is affordability, and that reflects in the strategy, and then building out and building in a way that's affordable for Canadians, that's going to make us more independent, more resilient, better jobs and careers for Canadians. And you see that in, with Build Canada Homes, it's been up and running for less than 6 months, 10,000 plus homes, already moving towards breaking ground. The Build Community Strong Fund, you see in the defense industrial side, you've seen I referenced in my remarks Contrecoeur, Mackenzie Valley Highway. There's a series of other announcements that have been made and are about to be made that are building construction in this. And everything about this electricity strategy is about building a cleaner and stronger. So that's there. Are we looking, and we're very transparent about it, are we looking in certain cases of, are there assets that the federal government has that we could recycle the investment into supporting building new assets? Airports is an example that is out there. I think the port reference is within a much broader series of things. I don't view it personally as a top priority, but we will look to what we're looking to do with all the tools we have is to catalyze building of this economy. If there are some assets that the federal government has that can help with that process, we'll look at it as part of a comprehensive approach.
Next question.
Abigail Beeman, CTV News. How worried are you about the prospect of Alberta voting to separate, and do you believe a referendum should be held?
A couple of things. One is, first, my role and the role of the federal government is, and we're pursuing this, is to practice cooperative federalism, to work with the provinces, work with the territories, work with Indigenous Canadians, and get things done on behalf of all Canadians. That's what we're doing with the province of Alberta. As someone who was raised in Alberta, proud Albertan, I view that very much the best place for Alberta is in Canada, and certainly a Canada that works, which is what we're pursuing. And I think the evidence, well, others will judge, but we're making that progress on behalf of Albertans. But by making Alberta stronger, we're making all of Canada stronger. Look, in terms of any referendum, we're a democracy. We have certain standards and an ability for provinces to hold referenda on a variety of subjects. And if following the rules, they hold referendums, obviously we support that. That means respecting the rights of Indigenous peoples, respecting the rights of people to privacy. It means if it's a referendum on separation in any province, it has to be consistent with the Clarity Act, and our role is to make sure those it's the role of other authorities in many cases to ensure that those rights are respected. With respect to the Clarity Act, as I'm sure you know, ultimately Parliament has a role in making the judgment about the question. But I'll go back and then hand back to you, Abigail. I'll go back to where I started. The core thing is working with the provinces, whether it's Alberta, Nova Scotia, whichever province, whatever territory, to make the country work, and that's what this government is focused on.
En français?
En français, en ce qui concerne quel aspect?
Il devrait y avoir un référendum en Alberta.
Et ce qui devrait, c'est un choix de... il y a des règles, il faut suivre des règles pour des référendums, et il faut respecter les droits des individus, des droits des libertés des individus, des droits de privacy, pardon, si Privé, des droits privés, en effet, oui. Et puis, des droits des peuples autochtones, ils viennent d'avoir, comme vous le savez, un jugement hier sur cela. Mais dans ce contexte, il y a des responsabilités pour le Parlement du Canada dans un contexte d'un référendum, n'importe quel référendum sur la souveraineté, de rendre un jugement sur la clarté de la question. Mais nous sommes une démocratie. Dans ce contexte, le peuple d'Alberta peut suivre un référendum si on suit des règles. Mais dans le contexte, c'est la responsabilité du gouvernement de rendre le fédéralisme effectif et de renforcer la force d'Alberta dans un Canada fort. Merci.
On today's announcement, with the energy wallet, your government is predicting that Canadians' use of gas-powered cars goes way down by 2050. And I'm wondering how we can be so sure about EVs as the path forward, specifically when you look at the news out of Honda.
Well, a couple of things. One, it's a question, ultimately this is going to be a question of affordability, reliability, the performance of those vehicles, the relative costs there. The first component of that is going to be building electricity that itself is affordable. I mean, we start from an enviable position in the country, Canada, relative to international peers, some of the lowest electricity costs in the world. We want to reinforce that. That's why we need a comprehensive strategy that builds in the right order, that uses all the tools we have in order to spread costs over time, and that brings as many of the grids together as possible. Canadians will then make the choice what kind of vehicles they want to drive. Look, with respect to Honda, it's obviously a disappointing decision. It's a decision about additional jobs, not current jobs, as you know, in Alston, but it's a disappointing decision. It's a decision that reflects the broader strategic position and financial position of that company. It's part of a global series of decisions that they've taken. I think what's clear and has only been reinforced by the spikes in gasoline and prices and worldwide and the volatility of those prices. You know, electricity prices aren't moving all around. Is that plus technological developments, the shift towards lower emission vehicles is certainly progressing globally and likely to progress here. But those are choices of Canadians. Those are choices Canadians will make.
Thank you, Prime Minister. This will be last question. Mackenzie Gray, Global News.
Yeah.
Hi, Prime Minister. We've heard from the Japanese ambassador as well from Honda itself saying that uncertainty around CUSMA and U.S. tariffs is a part of the decision-making process in regards to Alliston. Can you update us on where we are with the Americans and when we can expect formal negotiations to start with that?
Well, as we've said, we're ready to sit down for those negotiations. We know what the major trade issues are for the United States. We have a series of issues around the strategic sectors, including the auto sector, the steel sector, aluminum, forest products, particularly, now derivatives of copper and aluminum and steel. There are big opportunities for both of us if we can come to an agreement. It takes the Americans to focus, and I'm sure once they're finished with their discussions with China, they'll focus.
The World Cup is coming. And there are
is.
people in Vancouver who are very concerned that could be some of the last soccer games they see at BC Place, with the potential for the Whitecaps to relocate to Las Vegas. What has your government done to make sure that doesn't happen? And have you been involved in any way in those negotiations?
The short answer, I have not been involved. Yes, the World Cup is coming. Yes, we are looking forward to it. Yes, anyone internationally watching this, there are 3 hosts of the World Cup, and I've got to say, the warmest welcome is going to be in Canada. So we look forward to you coming here, and very much looking forward to. I hope Alfonso Davis is recovering as we speak. But we've got a great side, and we're going to move forward with that. Look, in terms of the Whitecaps specifically, I'm not personally involved in that. I would obviously like them to stay, but I don't have anything to say on that at this point. Thank you.
Sir, that concludes today's press
I'll
conference.
take one sorry.
Thanks very much. Alex Ballingo, the Toronto Star.
Yeah.
Just going back to Najud's question, I think you said update to the targets in due course. Can you just expand on that? Are we
Due course is due course, Alex.
But we're changing our climate.
Oh, no. That's not what I said. What we are doing, and let's be clear, and this is the approach of this government, is we are focused on investing to get results. We're focused on practical steps that are going to get results. It doesn't do us good to be sitting in court all the time with provinces. It doesn't do us good to be talking past each other. What it does do us good is to come together, specific projects. You know, in the end, these aren't words on a page. This is Russ, this is Sean, this is Frank and Francis and their colleagues going out and building things, connecting things, making progress. That's what we're focused on. That's what's going to deliver the results. What you're seeing today is the next iteration of a strategy that's all connected. It's connected, with the workers to make it work. We know we need more workers, so we got a strategy to do that, which we developed with the unions, we developed with the provinces, we're putting into place. It means working with the provinces. This strategy is informed not just by the personnel that we have in, although it sure does help to have the former CEO of Hydro-Quebec, part of developing that strategy. So not just the personnel that we have in government, but the fact that we've been working with provinces and utilities and the private sector on some of these big projects. Think about the Northwest Conservation Corridor in BC. That's a huge opportunity to make the system more efficient. Indigenous ownership, conservation area the size of Greece at the same time, as all part of that strategy while we're making it. So, Alex, it's the emission reductions are the product of the actions, and the government is putting more focus on the actions, really rolling up the sleeves and making sure these are moving forward. And by doing so, it concentrates the mind on several things. One, what's holding up projects moving forward. I gave you the example of Contrecoeur, bouncing around for 40 years. Now it's moving forward. Mackenzie Valley, bouncing around for 60 years, 61 years. I'm 60. Well, I guess maybe I became sentient or whatever at 3 or 4, but I've literally been talking about it since then. That's pretty bad when your earliest childhood memory is the Mackenzie Valley Highway, but there you go. So really moving forward, and also the fact that we're focused on the here and now means that we think about affordability all the time. So how do we do this in a way that's going to be affordable for Canadians? Because that's what they deserve, and we think we have a variety of things. I'm going to end on this just to reinforce. I say it's all connected, but how do we make it affordable? We make it affordable by linking together as many of the grids as possible, east, west, north. Huge efficiencies that come from that. We make it affordable through a series of financing mechanisms that the federal government can provide and complement to the provinces and others. In effect, what those do is spread costs over a long period of time, so it's not all borne by ratepayers today. We make it affordable by using a wide range of energy sources from different parts. We've talked a bit about gas today, more than it merits in terms of the overall contribution, but it is part of the way that we unlock affordably these bigger clean energy. And we make it affordable by making it affordable and possible for Canadians to save energy. I mean, we have 7 million Canadians, right, who households who have some form of in the extreme energy poverty or energy pressure. And they're using home heating oil, they're using propane, they're using baseboard heating, they don't have access. We're working for 1 million of those homes through a new retrofit program, and we're working to build out these grids in a clean way that's going to get affordability down and that $15 billion of savings.
On the industrial carbon price.
Did you catch that? That's my last comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister. That concludes today's press conference. Merci tout le monde.
Merci beaucoup.